70% of the planet's surface is covered by ocean. We now know that sea levels and the sea's temperature are rising, a result of global warming. In temperate waters, this has started to kill some of the sensitive species of coral, threatening the biodiversity of giant reefs, some of the richest environments on Earth. At the poles, the ice shelves are melting and giant icebergs are being seen in waters much closer to the equator than have ever before been recorded. Our oceans are changing rapidly. The sea plays an important role in redistributing heat from the tropics to the frigid poles. This circulation of ocean waters carries with it nutrients that all sea life depends on. The biggest threat to marine life is mankind. An area in the Pacific Ocean northwest of Hawaii, used as a nest ground by the green sea turtle, was recently set aside as the world's biggest marine sanctuary. The newly designated marine park is also home to the endangered monk seal, as well as 7,000 other species, 1/4 of which are found nowhere else. The sanctuary covers an archipelago more than 2,000 kilometres long and 160 kilometres wide. The series of largely uninhabited islands, atolls, coral reef colonies and underwater peaks are part of the largest no-take marine conservation area in the world, just ahead of the Great Barrier Reef in Australia. The Great Barrier Reef is the Earth's largest complex of coral reefs. It's larger than the UK and Ireland combined, and it has been declared a World Heritage Area. It is the only living organism that can be seen from space. But it's under threat from overfishing and land-based pollution. Despite being a marine park and a World Heritage Area, until now, only 4.5% has been protected from fishing. Now, a new plan will ban fishing in 1/3 of the marine park. Although this will affect commercial fishing, far more income is generated by the tourist industry. The coast near the reef is an agriculturally rich area which is also causing problems. Chemical runoff from farms is being swept down rivers, causing problems at sea, and parts of the reef are dying because water temperatures are increasing. The Great Barrier Reef isn't just one of the world's most precious natural treasures, it's also one of Australia's most valuable tourism assets, generating more than 4.2 billion Australian dollars annually. Every year, tens of thousands of visitors come to the area. Such large numbers generate different problems, and the reef is in danger of being loved to death. Agincourt Reef is just one of nearly 3,000 that make up the huge expanse of the Great Barrier Reef. Concentrating tourism in this area, and others like it, means that most of the reef remains undisturbed. Coming out on a tourist vessel is probably the only way a lot of people will ever see the reef. Tour operators and dive boat owners are keen to reveal some of the damaged corals, as well as pristine areas, in an effort to impart an understanding of the fragile nature of the reef and the land-based problems it faces. More marine sanctuaries mean more fish and other marine life that will continue to improve the region's value and attraction as a tourist hub. The National Oceanography Centre at Southampton in the UK is undertaking a number of major research projects around the world, including a study on the global impact of climate change and exploration of the deepest parts of the oceans. On its dedicated quayside, the centre houses an array of large-scale equipment needed for marine scientific research, even developing new research tools for other institutions. This is AutoSub, an autonomous robotic submarine that has recently been used for research in the waters off the coast of Antarctica. The submarine is powered by batteries and has been pre-programmed to follow a particular track. After a final check, the robotic submarine is lowered into the freezing ocean. It is surveying the thickness of icebergs, helping to gauge the effect of sea temperature change in the Antarctic waters of the Weddell Sea. At the same time, it will gather data on krill populations. After an hour, the sub returns. The information about ice thickness will serve as a baseline to be compared against later studies. A different type of remotely operated submarine, designed for use at greater depths, has also been delivering a wealth of new results. Known as the Serpent, it is giving researchers access to deep sea locations that had previously been out of range. Early pictures have been promising, with new species being seen for the first time. An interesting finding has been that pictures taken in Scotland and in Australia have shown similarities in the species found. The Centre is using the Serpent in collaboration with oil exploration companies to help meet the high cost of such specialised deep ocean missions. The craft has been used to search for oil at record depths. Pictures of new species have posed science a new problem. For a new species to be recognised, a preserved sample has to be presented to an approved institution for verification. But so many of the National Oceanography Centre's new species samples exist only as images on videotape that scientific regulators will have to come up with more modern standards. The Centre also stores thousands of core samples taken from seabeds from around the world. These core samples contain a record of events in the ocean's basins. Minute variations that occur along the sample provide a window on past volcanic activity and even meteor impacts. By knowing what conditions existed and how quickly they changed, scientists gain a valuable insight into the state of the planet today. Our oceans teem with life, yet we know little about the behaviour of even the most obvious creatures. This is a whale shark. It feeds on plankton like many of the great whales, but it's a member of the shark family. Unlike the whale, it breathes through gills. It is the world's biggest fish, and large specimens can measure up to 20 metres. Normally, they live in the depths of the world's oceans, but each September, many migrate to an area north of Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula, between the islands of Holbox and Contoy, where they feed at the surface. In early September 2007, more than 600 whale sharks were counted. Marine researchers are now using satellite tracking devices to learn more about the fish. The new tags allow them to discover more about the fish's movements and daily routine. Mexican authorities will use this information to protect the sharks more effectively in the Yambalam National Park. Tourist activities, including snorkeling with whale sharks, are permitted in the confines of the park where it is strictly regulated. There are plans to extend the nature reserve and increase its protection category to Biosphere Reserve. The whale sharks come here because a mixture of cold and warm water in the region means there is a lot of plankton for them to feed on. Real whales are also being closely studied. In the waters south of Australia, scientists have been using acoustic recording equipment to learn more about their breeding patterns and even the type of water they prefer. Marine biologist Jason Gudamke has been studying whale sounds for a decade. By placing a recorder on the ocean floor, scientists have discovered whales in the Antarctic during winter, a season when they are not usually expected in the area. On a recent visit to the Southern Ocean, the researchers found that blue whales were some of the most vocal, given that researchers believe only a few of the mammals should be in the area at that period of the year. The marine biologist said despite several sightings of minke whales, their sounds were not recorded. Two other groups with an interest in whales have been busy in the Southern Ocean recently. After a 10-day search, the environmental organisation Greenpeace announced that its ship, the Esperanza, had confronted Japan's whaling fleet in the Southern Ocean whale sanctuary. Greenpeace said the whaling fleet immediately took flight from the Esperanza, leading to a high-speed pursuit. The Japanese whaling ship Yushin Maru passed by the Greenpeace vessel, while the factory ship Nishin Maru sped away. In an appeal radioed to the Japanese whaling fleet, Greenpeace expedition leader Carly Thomas said that they represented millions of people around the world who want to see an end to whaling in the Southern Ocean whale sanctuary. Greenpeace said its mission was to prevent the Japanese government's slaughter of nearly 1,000 whales, including 50 endangered fin whales. The Japanese say the mission was part of a science and research program, but many environmental activists fear the Japanese government is attempting to bring about a return to commercial whaling. Osprey Reef, in the Coral Sea off the northeastern shores of Australia, is a popular destination for scuba divers, but recently the area has been plundered by illegal fishing activity focused on shark fin. Now, the World Wildlife Fund Australia has started calling for the protection of the entire Coral Sea and its predatory inhabitants from illegal fishing activity. The area is home to many shark species. The grey nurse, hammerhead and great whites all feed in this region. The environmental organisation called on the Australian government to declare the entire Coral Sea region a marine protected area because of concerns about illegal fishing in the area for shark fin. Shark fin is very popular in Asian markets. The Coral Sea, a close neighbour to the Great Barrier Reef, is one of only 4 predator diversity hotspots. And in Baja, California, a different coalition of conservationists, known as the Group of 100, is calling for the protection of the sea turtle. The sea turtle has always been a traditional food source, but increased human population means they are being hunted unsustainably. The turtle is now on the endangered list. The group has asked for increased protection and enforcement of environmental laws which designate the Baja area as feeding reserves for the sea turtles. Further south on Mexico's Pacific coast, in the state of Oaxaca, the sea turtles make themselves particularly vulnerable. During the night, in the months from August to January, at La Escobilla Beach, they come ashore to lay their eggs. It is thought that a turtle will return to the beach where it hatched to make its own nest. The mother turtles swim thousands of kilometres to arrive at La Escobilla, coming from as far away as Guatemala, El Salvador, Costa Rica and Ecuador. Each turtle lays about 100 eggs in deep nests. The eggs take about 1.5 months to hatch and produce turtles that take about a decade to grow to adult, but survival rates are low. Possibly only 1 in 100 will reach maturity. The Mexican Turtle Center, one of the largest centers for marine turtle protection in North America, helps the babies dodge land-bound perils. Unhatched eggs are moved to guarded areas, and hatchlings are nurtured before being returned to the sea, where they will be left to fend for themselves. The situation in Mexico affects 5 species of endangered sea turtle, threatening populations as far away as Hawaii and Japan. Longline fishing practices are endangering the world's albatrosses. Conservationists have released a report that identifies parts of the world where longline fishing trawlers and albatrosses cross paths, often with fatal results for the birds. More than 300,000 seabirds, including 100,000 albatrosses, are believed to drown each year because they are lured by baited hooks and then pulled under the water. The report used satellite tracking data on 16 species of albatross and 3 petrel species, all endangered by commercial and pirate longline fishing fleets, which use lines up to 130 kilometres long, carrying thousands of baited hooks. Fishermen don't want to catch albatrosses. Every bait that is lost to an albatross is a hook that can't catch a fish, so the fishermen lose out economically. They want to do everything in their power to avoid catching albatrosses and increase their fish catch. Of the 21 species of albatross, 19 are threatened with extinction. The birds are threatened by introduced species such as rats and feral cats, which raid their nests. A serious decline in fish stocks is also affecting albatross numbers, but their greatest danger comes as they become the unwanted bycatch of the longline fishing industry. Some fishing boats have started setting streamer lines that scare the albatrosses away from the baited hooks. Global numbers of the elephant seal population are in decline as well. Until recently, researchers could only guess as to the reasons behind this. But now scientists in Australia are using state-of-the-art satellite tracking sensors to follow the mammals in their habitat across the Southern Ocean. The new trackers transmit the water temperature and salinity levels every 2 hours, and the technology has revolutionized the work of oceanographers looking at the same region. Scientists are now able to map out strong currents, known as ocean rivers, where the seals are choosing to forage. The sensors are glued to the fur of the elephant seals before they leave on long foraging journeys. The tags are retrieved when the animals return to the same beach to molt 10 months later. James Cameron, the director of the film Titanic, has been documenting a scientific mission searching for the origins of life on Earth. Using 4 deep-sea mini-subs, Cameron and his team explored the mid-ocean ridge, an underwater chain of mountains that winds around the globe. The mini-subs let Cameron and his crew dive to volcanic vents more than 1,000 metres below the surface. A film of the mission, titled Aliens of the Deep, was completed recently. As well as oceanographers, the project employed scientists from other disciplines, including researchers previously focused on finding traces of life in space. Scientists on the Cameron project looked at the possible links between life underwater and life on frozen planets or moons. The film reveals an abundance of strange deep-sea creatures. Life near the ocean vents offers clues to how life might start on other planets. These are the only communities on Earth that are not reliant on energy from the sun for their survival. The film considers life in the oceans of Jupiter's icy moon, Europa. The vents pour out clouds of hot chemical soup used by bacteria as food. Larger animals then feed on the bacteria. A probe could deliver a robot sub to tunnel through Europa's ice to the warmer waters deep below. Staff working on the project were excited to be the first to touch these worms from a location near a volcanic vent. The Cameron project has captured unprecedented images of the deep ocean volcanic vents. And scientists from the University of Southampton have been receiving data sent to them by satellite from boats taking part in the Volvo Ocean Adventure. 8 yachts in the race carried special equipment to relay information about plankton levels and ocean temperatures. By measuring the colour of the water, the researchers can determine the abundance of phytoplankton. This data fits into a wider program studying the ocean's food chain and the role phytoplankton plays in the marine life cycle. The racing yachts provided a useful platform for the monitoring equipment. Researchers are now looking at other ships travelling different routes for use as sampling craft. Finally, there are only a few locations around the world where the shape of the coastal shelf creates the perfect wave. And in Maui, the size of those perfect waves can be frightening. The Billabong Global XXL is an invitation-only, big wave competition limited to surfers who have demonstrated a long career of big wave skills. These waves are moving with such speed that a conventional takeoff is not possible. Surfers must be towed behind a jet ski to catch the wave. Among the big wave surfers present was Californian Mike Parsons, the record holder for the biggest wave ever surfed, a 20-metre wave at Cortez Bank, California in January 2001. The giant swell in Maui coincided with perfect weather conditions, which resulted in what experts called the greatest day of big wave riding ever seen. The biggest waves of the day may have had lip to trough face heights over 18 metres at their tallest. The waves of Jaws, as they became known, were deceptively perfect, but the human-sized bumps on the wave face caused surfers to suffer serious wipeouts in the massive waves. The jet skis were worked hard to recover competitors and then ferry them back out for the next wave. The competition provides a prize of $1,000 per foot of wave height, minimum of 60 feet, for the biggest wave ridden each year anywhere in the world, based on photographic evidence. Tahiti, California, and parts of Indonesia and Australia are the only other locations where big wave surfing takes place. On this particular day, no one was badly hurt in the event, though 3 jet skis used for helping to recover the surfers were wrecked.